Wishing you all well today. Sending loads of love as usual. The subject or topic I've come up with tonight was one I was going to come up with yesterday. For one reason or another, I didn't. I waited for the dust to settle before I shared this experience with you, and shared also another new experience. Now, many of you could have been through this before. Many of you worry that it could, but there's a possibility at some stage in life it could happen to you. But there are some that it has already happened to, with sad, sad consequences. And it goes like something like this: missing children or missing grandchildren. So, not pleased to tell you that it has now happened to me. So, I'll start from the top. 2 nights ago, at 1:20 in the morning, I got a phone call. I was in a deep sleep. I looked across, because sometimes I sleep with my phone on, and I saw that it was my son. So I'm thinking, on red alert straight away. That time in the morning, he must need me pretty badly. So I switched on the phone, groggy and everything, and the first thing he asked me is, "Dad, when was the last time you heard from my daughter, your granddaughter, my beloved Amani, my eldest granddaughter, who I love very, very dearly, who I speak to daily now, building up a nice repertoire and a relationship with her." And I said, "Why?" He says, "Because he hasn't heard from her." So I asked, "Was this unusual?" And he says, "Yes, Dad, it is unusual. It's happened before." She's 17 years old now, so not really an adult. Well, a child in my mind, 17, to be honest. But in the eyes I'm hearing of others, it is not, 17 is quite old. And if she stays out for a night, it's not so much alarm bells ringing. So I'm hearing, I might have got this wrong. But you know me, I'm just listening to what's being told by the police, right? So I read out straight away. I get the phone, look back on the messages, and I tell him the day before I heard from her at 2:20 in the afternoon. Morning, Granddad, or afternoon, Granddad. How's your day? Blah 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 blah. I love you, Granddad. That's how it ends. So that was my last message of her. So he says, "What? Nothing else?" I said, "No, son, nothing else." I said, "What about, I'm asking him again, what about you, Dad?" Nothing. I've reported her missing. Reported her missing means to me now the alarm bells are ringing, and I'm thinking the worst. I know there's many of you out there that, as parents and grandparents, this is one of the most fearful, scariest things that could happen to you. Many of you have been through it in a small way, where it ends with a decent, nice conclusion, where it might have been harmful or harmless, or some of you fear that this thing could happen. I've met along the way of very, very extreme cases where it ends very, very tragically and sadly, where the child goes missing, never to be seen again, especially with the life that I have led. So, my mind might work a little bit different from other people's, though I suspect that many don't have to have lived the criminal's mind to think the ultimate worst. But that's what I was thinking, because I was going over things in my mind, half a dozen. So I'm really alert now that time in the morning. And he's upset, I'm upset. The police have been called. And I'm saying to him, "What are you going to do?" He said, "There's nothing I can do. The phone's become unavailable, where it's not even ringing or anything. It says that you can't get through." So that's the first sign. I take it as danger, because that's not a normal thing for a phone not to ring, or the phone goes to the answering machine, in which case she might be sleeping or whatever, and blah blah blah. Or rather, no, he'd been checking throughout the day already, and the phone was doing the same kind of thing. So remember, I'm not with him at that time while he's doing that. So all I know is I heard from her, and I'm the last person to hear from her. So I'm hearing during this moment, right? So I can't get back to sleep. I'm restless. I sit up, I fall asleep eventually, I wake up in the morning, I phone my son, he phones me, and I say, any news? No, no news. Has it happened before? Yes, it has. It's happened before, but not for quite some time. She's 17 years old now. I look at her as a child at 17. Apparently others don't, not my son, but other people like the police and people don't look at 17 as really too much of a child. Like it's not really unrare for them to go missing for a few hours or a day even, or something like that. But, you know, for us and our family, it's pretty unnormal that she doesn't check in at least to say where she is, who she's with, what time she'll be back, etc., etc. So then he says to me, Dad, you're going to have to expect a phone call from the police, which is the Missing Persons Unit. Straight away now, I'm thinking, oh no. So remember, I don't know how this whole thing works now. Now I do. I've got some experience of it. Now I'm glad to have the experience of it, to be honest. So at least I know of what to expect. One second. When these kind of things happen, hoping that it never happens to any of you lot again, and hoping definitely that it doesn't happen to me. So we go into the next day, we get to lunchtime, the afternoon, we're still in contact, me and my lovely boy, Dario, and his lovely missus, my daughter, Danielle. And, you know, all thoughts of travelling through their heads. I'm getting a bit more history on, you know, things that have happened to her in the past and, you know, some of the things she's been through. Because, you remember, I haven't been out long enough to know a lot of stuff historically about my lovely granddaughter. So, but we're taking it as alarming, like all great parents do, whether it's 24 hours, 12 hours, 18 hours, to be on the safe side, you've got to ring the police if it's unusual in some capacity, right? So then, you know, about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon, or I think it was, the police ring me. A nice gentleman, I forgot his name. He says to me, are you Granddad blah, 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 blah? Yes, I am. You were the last person that Amani had a conversation with. I said, yes, apparently so. So I'm giving him all the information I possibly can about the last bit of the talk that I had with her, and that, you know, it is a bit if you say the last few weeks, she checks in with me normally morning, lunchtime and night now. So then now I'm realizing she didn't check in that night. So then to me, even though I have another lifetime to her, that becomes now making me feel that's a bit unusual as well, right? So he's speaking to me. He's saying to me, yeah, she's an adult. You know, he doesn't want her in the wrong hands, and she could be around this person's house and that person's house. I start getting a bit angry and asking him whose person, who's this, where's the address, blah, blah, blah. The old Yammy's creeping back in because I want to get in a taxi and I want to go and knock on a few doors to find out where my granddaughter is. So me and my son, obviously, are planning also to knock on a couple of doors just in case, you know, private matters. We want to get to the bottom of it. And he says to me, don't worry, Samson, we'll do the best we can. We're going to investigate. He said to me, he can't give me the address of these things because of my history. I said, what do you mean my history? He goes, well, you might take it into your own hands if she's in the wrong place or whatever. Children these days, youngsters, young adults these days, get up to all sorts of blah, blah, blah. I don't really want to hear that. As far as I know, my granddaughter's a little angel. And that kind of stuff, you know, you don't want to hear anything like that, if you get what I mean. Within a minute of me putting down the phone, good news comes in. Straight away, my son texts me, she's back. So, relief straight away. Policeman rings me back within a minute after that to say, Samson, don't worry, all's well, she's been found. Right. She rings me about an hour or so later, and I am absolutely livid with her now. Not livid, like over the top angry, but please, Amani, if you go missing or you can't get home for the night or you're staying out for whatever reason, please in the future, let your granddad know. Or most of all, let your mum and dad know, because they care for you deeply. Whatever's going on in your life, you know, I don't know exactly what's going on in her life. As far as I know, she's doing the best she can. I'm very, very proud of her with the way that she conducts herself and that kind of stuff. And she said, sorry, Granddad, it won't happen again. So I was pretty pleased with the outcome of that. But I wasn't happy because in the future, the reasons that she's given weren't good enough for me, because I was thinking, you could have done it this way, you could have done it that way, you could have got somebody else's phone, you could have done all the things that come into your mind that you're explaining to your granddaughter. There's other ways, apart from shutting off and letting no one know, there's ways of telling people that you're all right. Do you see what I mean? So I cleared up all that, came to a decent conclusion, but again, a new experience. And being involved with the police as well, you know, they know about my history straight away. Obviously, they've looked me up, and a few things were asked. There was some, this is afterwards, after we got the good news that she was back. And since then, we've been, you know, having our laughs and jokes like we do morning, day, and night. So that was a decent conclusion. But there are many times in life where I know now that when these things happen, and remember, just because it's happened before in whatever capacity, whether it was small, innocent, or whatever, because we know young kids, they can do things for whatever reasons, whether they want attention, whether, you know, they're upset about something, they haven't got nobody to share it with, or they're stuck. But for me, you know, it was an experience that reminded me of prison once again. Now, first thing that came to my mind was once there was a lady, I think you lot would remember this case, where she reported her daughter or niece or something like that. She reported her missing. So she's got the whole town out looking for the daughter, right? And nobody can't find her. And in the end, 24 hours later, 48 hours later, the daughter is found, thankfully, in her uncle's house somewhere. And we found out that the mum has told a pack of lies to get attention for whatever reasons, mental health, getting your partner back, you know, for what it was, you know, that immediately reminded me of that. You know, that's not a funny one to me, what she did there. And I think she went to prison for it. And forever, I think she even had to change her identity over it, because what a stupid thing to do, to get everybody thinking that, and then knowing full well that you know your child's safe, you know. But these are the things that come up. And then also I remembered other cases. As you have been a criminal, what the things that come into your mind, the worst case scenario. Then you remember Huntley, and you remember this one, and you remember that one, and you remember the what's that? There's Sarah Payne, and things like that, and Millie Dowler. You know, talking about him earlier. Old murderous, horrendous, horrific, horriblest man that we ever met in history. What's his name? You know, so the parents have been through this kind of stuff before. So I know what it feels like now, even though I've had a happy ending to it. But I know, like, I just felt the need to explain, to share that experience with you tonight. But Amani, your punishment, I'm afraid, for not letting your granddad know will be, let me think, what would it be? No, nothing. Because even if I say you ain't getting no money for 2 days, you'll still get it out of me. So there's no point in saying that. I'd just like to tell you that I love you very, very dearly, my darling. But please, 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 in the future, remember that there's loads of us that care about you and love you very, very much, darling. And just take into consideration that there are those that care about you and worry about you, and it's not as easy as that. I know you'll be of age one day where you can, you know, when you're settled and you've got your own place and living your own life, where you won't have to check in, you know. But as far as I'm concerned, 17 is no age still, and as far as I'm concerned, 17 still means to me that you're a child. But I love you very, very dearly, and I'll speak to you in a minute. All right, so if you're watching this, no punishment this time. I don't think I could punish you anyway. I love you loads. I'll be up in a little bit.